Imagine this. You're sitting alone in the quiet of your own space, surrounded by the soft hum of your thoughts, the distant echo of the world outside. You've chosen this solitude not because you've given up on love, but because you've chosen yourself. The world, with all its noise and distraction, often asks why. Why would a woman live alone without the presence of a man, as if her existence is incomplete without validation from the opposite sex? But the truth is far more profound than the surface-level assumptions. Women who choose this path, who live alone without a man, embody a powerful and unsettling truth about self-empowerment. They have learned something that eludes many: the art of individuation, the journey of becoming whole in their own right. To understand the essence of these women, one must first look at the deeper, hidden realms of the psyche, the unconscious forces that drive the dynamics of male and female relationships, the internal struggles we often hide from the world. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the part of the self that is often rejected or ignored. For many women, society has made the shadow of independence a thing to fear, to suppress. The quiet woman who lives alone is often seen as cold, distant, or even incomplete. Yet, she is the woman who has faced her own shadow with courage. She does not rely on the approval of a man to define her worth. She has looked within, integrated the parts of herself that others might deem unworthy, and emerged stronger because of it. This woman, by living alone, has begun the process of individuation. She is learning to shed the false identities that were imposed upon her by society, and instead, she is embracing the full complexity of who she is. She is not defined by her relationship status, by what others think of her, or by the expectations of a man's love. Her worth is not a currency to be spent on another. It is an essence, sacred and whole in itself. But to get here, she has faced the greatest challenge of all: the ego. The ego that thrives on external validation, the ego that seeks the safety of external approval to feel alive. The woman who lives alone has not escaped this battle. Rather, she has learned to transcend it. She has silenced the voices of doubt and external judgment, realizing that love, true, unshakable love, begins within. She knows that until she has learned to love herself fully, she cannot truly love another. She understands the profound wisdom of the ancient Stoic philosophers, the wisdom of Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, that happiness is not found in the fleeting, unstable affections of others, but in the cultivation of inner peace and self-mastery. There is a certain power in a woman who is comfortable in her own presence, who does not need to seek out a man to feel complete. She recognizes the delicate dance of masculine and feminine energy within herself, the intertwining of yin and yang, of sun and moon. She knows that her femininity is not a commodity to be offered, but a force to be revered. In her solitude, she is learning to channel this energy, powerful, untamed, and wild. This is where many will misunderstand her. To those who look from the outside, she may appear aloof, detached, perhaps even cold. But she is not cold. She is simply choosing to protect the sanctity of her own energy. She is not desperate for the touch of another to feel validated. The truth is that she is learning to be in tune with herself in a way that few ever do. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever noticed how your energy shifts when you stop seeking external validation? The moment you release the need to have a man by your side to define your worth, the moment you stop giving away pieces of your soul to satisfy someone else's desires, something inside you begins to awaken. It is as though the universe itself is acknowledging your strength, your courage, your willingness to face the depths of your own being. This is the moment when you realize that the love you've been searching for has always been within you. The woman who lives alone is not lonely. She is not empty. She is whole. And in her wholeness, she radiates a quiet magnetism that others, especially men, are drawn to. But it is not the kind of magnetism that comes from a need to be needed. It is the magnetism of self-assurance, of sovereignty, of a woman who understands that she is both a creation and creator, a force of nature in her own right. Do you know how many women live in a constant state of waiting for love to come and fill them? It is a tragedy, but it is also a reality. So many women hand their power away, waiting for a man to complete them, to validate their worth. They place their value in someone else's hands, and in doing so, they become disconnected from their true selves. But the woman who lives alone, she has discovered a deeper truth. She knows that only by reclaiming her own energy can she truly experience the beauty of love with another. She does not need to wait, to beg, or to chase. She chooses. She chooses when to give and when to keep for herself. ChatGPT to NOI. The moment a woman begins to stand in her own power, there is an undeniable shift that happens in her life. The world begins to notice, though they may not always understand. Her strength lies not in her defiance of others, but in her unwavering commitment to herself. She has learned to be her own protector, her own nurturer, and her own guide. She has stopped looking outward for validation because she knows, deep within, that she is enough. But this journey is not without its challenges. To live alone as a woman, to carve out space for oneself in a world that constantly pressures women to shrink, to give, to serve, it requires immense courage. There are moments of vulnerability, moments where the ego fights to regain control, whispering that she is not enough, that she is incomplete. These are the moments when the shadow work becomes most necessary. The woman who lives alone must confront her shadow daily. The shadow is that part of the self that we reject or suppress, the part of us that contains our fears, our doubts, our unacknowledged desires. It is the darker side of our nature, the side that we often try to hide from the world. For many women, the shadow is wrapped in stories of unworthiness, of being told from an early age that their value lies in how well they serve others, how well they fulfill the expectations placed on them. The shadow tells them that their worth is conditional, that they must seek approval, that they must be needed. But the woman who lives alone does not shy away from her shadow. She faces it with grace, with a willingness to see herself fully, the light and the dark, the strength and the fragility. And in doing so she integrates her shadow. She no longer runs from the parts of herself that are uncomfortable. Instead she makes peace with them. She knows that true wholeness comes not from perfection, but from embracing all of who she is. The ego, once her greatest foe, becomes her ally in the dance of self-realization. This is the beauty of the woman who chooses solitude. She becomes her own hero, her own lover, her own best friend. She does not need a man to define her worth because she has already done the deep work of self-love and self-acceptance. Her existence is not a reflection of a relationship status or the approval of others, but a manifestation of her own inner strength, her sovereignty. And yet, this journey is not always celebrated. The world often demands that women be attached to someone, that they be in a relationship to feel complete. But the truth is that a woman who is whole does not need anyone to complete her. She understands that her energy is not meant to be given away indiscriminately, but to be shared when and with whom she chooses. She is the embodiment of the sacred feminine, powerful, nurturing, and fiercely independent. There is a depth of magnetism in the woman who has chosen to live alone. Men in particular feel this magnetic pull. They are drawn to her energy, to her self-assurance, to the way she carries herself. But it is not a magnetic pull that stems from a desire to possess or control. It is a pull of respect, admiration, and deep intrigue. Men recognize that she is not a prize to be won, but an equal, a partner to be chosen. They know that to be with her is not to claim her, but to stand alongside her, to walk beside her in the dance of life. In the quiet moments of solitude, the woman who lives alone finds clarity. She finds peace in her own company, in the stillness of her thoughts. It is in these moments that she connects most deeply with her intuition, the voice that guides her through life. She does not need external noise to tell her what to do, to guide her decisions. She has become attuned to the whispers of her own soul. This is not to say that the woman who lives alone rejects love or relationships. Quite the opposite. She understands love in a way that many do not. She knows that love is not about possession but about union. She understands that to truly love another, she must first love herself, to nurture and honor her own soul. She is not afraid of intimacy, but she will not settle for anything less than true connection, a bond that honors her independence as much as her need for companionship. The woman who lives alone is the embodiment of self-mastery. She has overcome the desire for external validation, choosing instead to cultivate her inner strength. She is not afraid of being alone, because in her solitude she has discovered the most powerful truth of all. She is enough. She is whole. And she is free. In her aloneness, the woman who chooses solitude is not merely surviving, she is thriving. This is where the true magic happens, when a woman fully embraces her independence and the power that comes from it. It is not a bitter or resentful solitude but one of peace, one where she has learned that her worth is intrinsic, not dependent on anyone else's gaze. She has become the author of her own story, not allowing the world's expectations or the fleeting affections of others to dictate her path. This state of being is where the spiritual essence of femininity can fully unfold. When a woman lives alone, she reconnects with her most authentic self, allowing her to express her creativity, her intuition, and her passions with greater freedom. She is no longer bound by the need to meet the needs of others, but rather she is free to create and live on her own terms. The divine feminine energy within her is no longer something to be tamed or confined but something to be expressed, celebrated, and respected. The truth is, many women fear solitude because they have been taught to believe that their worth is tied to their relationships with men. But this is a myth, a dangerous one. The truth is that when a woman learns to live alone, to find her own worth and satisfaction in her own company, she becomes infinitely more attractive. Not because she is detached or cold, but because she has learned the deep art of self-respect and self-love. She is at peace with herself, and that peace radiates from her, drawing people to her not for her neediness, but for her strength, her authenticity, and her sense of purpose. It is often said that women who are single or live alone are somehow incomplete. The world tells them that something is missing, that they should seek out a partner to fill the void. But in truth, the void does not exist in a woman who has fully embraced herself. The emptiness that society assumes to be there is nothing more than an illusion. For the woman who chooses solitude, there is no void. There is only space, space to grow, to evolve, and to explore her inner depths. What many fail to recognize is that in this space she finds the truest form of love. The love that comes from within, untainted by expectation, free of attachment. This is the love that allows her to choose a partner, not because she needs them, but because they complement the fullness of her being. She has no desire to complete anyone because she knows she is already whole. She understands that love between two whole individuals is the most powerful force in the world. Men too are drawn to this. There is a subtle but powerful attraction to a woman who does not seek validation. A woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses. And this choice is powerful. It is a quiet, confident, and unspoken assertion of her independence. She knows that she deserves someone who sees her for who she truly is, not for who she can become in their eyes. This is the profound difference between a woman who seeks validation from others and one who is whole within herself. The latter is magnetic because her energy is free from neediness, free from the constraints of ego. In this place of wholeness, the woman who lives alone understands the importance of boundaries. She has learned to protect her energy, to choose who she allows into her sacred space. She does not allow the world to tell her what to do or who to be. She has a fierce inner compass that guides her through life, and she trusts it completely. She no longer seeks permission or approval from anyone, least of all from a man. She knows that her path is hers alone to walk, and she walks it with courage, with grace, and with unwavering commitment to her own truth. The freedom that comes with living alone, with being truly comfortable in one's own company, is something that cannot be bought or given. It must be earned. It is the result of deep inner work, of facing the parts of herself that others might find unworthy, of reclaiming the pieces of herself that were lost or suppressed in the pursuit of external validation. And when she has done this, when she has come to terms with her own darkness and her own light, she becomes untouchable. Not in a way that pushes others away, but in a way that commands respect and admiration. This is the woman who is powerful not because of what she has, but because of what she has become. She has become the embodiment of everything that the world often dismisses or fears. A woman who is whole, who is free, and who is sovereign over her own life. She is not afraid to stand alone, because she knows that in her solitude she is complete. It is time for every woman who has ever doubted herself, who has ever felt the pressure to find validation in a partner, to understand the truth. The woman who lives alone is not lonely. She is not lost. She is found. And in her foundness, she is more magnetic, more powerful, and more beautiful than she has ever known. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.